Hi there, welcome to Prime Time. I'm Paul Orford and I'm back with Edward from Bullion Capital, and today we're going to discuss quite a contentious issue which I know 50% of the audience are probably going to get very riled by and 50% will be quite happy by, which is Bitcoin or digital currencies. Are they any good, or is it just a load of old nonsense? Look, my knowledge base of this is quite basic. I know of a basic understanding of how it works. I know, let's call them the majors, Bitcoin and the others, but after that, my knowledge, I've not really looked into it. So
of the cryptocurrency market. All right, so I think it's amazing what Bitcoin has given us the opportunity to go and do, and that is, it's a totally independent currency, and it lets us transact without borders. So I have a programmer sitting in Russia, and I want to pay him. I might have an issue sending him US dollars because the sanctions on currently across the US market. Why that should affect me as an individual sitting in Cyprus doing business, why am I restricted by US sanctions is ridiculous. So Bitcoin's an excellent means of exchange that allows to get me around that system. That said, I have some serious worries and some serious doubts to where we sit with Bitcoin as we sit today. And that is, I don't know if you saw, Google have just come out with a new quantum computer that they can hack anything. So, as today, Bitcoin is super secure on today's technology. But, if you remember the Commodore 64, it was the best, gaming computer back in the day. Yeah. Today, my kid's cell phone does better than that. So, it's early days for Bitcoin. I think one of the biggest questions that investors always come to me and they say, "Oh, Bitcoin, digital gold," and I totally disagree. Bitcoin is not a digital gold. Gold has a 5,000-year history, a track record. So I always kind of turn back to investors and I ask them a very simple question: if you were to set sail today onto, on a voyage, and you're going to hit some really troublesome storms along the way, what would you take with you? The latest technology, it's never been tried and tested in a storm, or good old faithful equipment that's been around 5,000 years, that's been tried and tested and has always weathered its way through? Where would you put your, where would you put your faith? Is a question.
Now, just to play devil's advocate here, with all the way through history, everything needs a leg up and an advancement. So if we stuck with that argument, we'd still be using a tree stuck on the corner of the sea. We wouldn't advance to where we can see great big oil tankers over there. So isn't it best to kind of go with the advancement or mix it up? I mean, how would you do this?
Again, if I'm looking at, I'm gonna take this as an angle of an investor looking at his portfolio. I definitely agree. You should have a small allocation to Bitcoin. I mean, there's a small place in there for as a speculative model and the what if this is, if this is the monetary system of the future, great, let's take a thing. But would I go and bet the house on it? No chance. Looking at the macro perspective of the global economy currently, I think holding gold is a crucial part of every investor's portfolio, especially in the time that we're at. And I don't think you can replace that with Bitcoin in any way. Especially if you said the store of value. I mean, Bitcoin's been up at 10,000, it was down at 7,000 last week, it was up at 10,000. That's not really a great store of your value.
I think what the problem is, look, as a way for me to transfer capital for a service between one border to another, I don't have an issue with it. However, if you're looking to change your net worth, yeah, you might change your net worth, but for the wrong reasons, in a negative fashion. So I think you should really say to yourself, what is my reason for using this? And I think really what it is all about in the first place was a transfer of capital from A to B in a borderless fashion, rather than inflating the cost of this. Because if you think it started off as cents or point of cents, and it was just a way to move capital. It wasn't for banks to invest a significant amount of money to pump the price up, because ultimately that doesn't help anybody.
I've lost my train of thought totally today.
No, cool. I mean, it's my fault, because it's more of a statement than a question, but more of a rant actually. But like compared to gold, like my point is this: with gold, you know where you are. All right, it's not going to go out of fashion. It's always going to be like the boring grey eminence which is always there, but it's not going to go away. All right, it's at 1500 now. Worst case scenario, it may go to say 700 if there's complete oblivion in the marketplace. But that is something really significant would have to happen. But it's not going to go to zero. You're not going to see these massive swings, and for that to go to 700 would take quite a while for it to get there. So all the way down, you've got exit points where you know you can get out of this. Conversely, if you go from 10,000 to 7,500 with Bitcoin, that's a huge swing. That's a 25% depreciation or appreciation, which happens in a matter of days. And if you've got it leveraged, well, I would say you're screwed, or you could be coming quite well if you're on the right side of the trade. But it's not something, it will give you a heart attack, surely, wouldn't it?
Definitely. Definitely. I mean, look, I'm sure for the people who are out there who are crypto capital fans, let me give them I think the blockchain is an absolutely amazing advancement. And the key point here that it brings to the table is, I'm going to say, it takes the me first element out of our day-to-day things. So it's, let's make everything equal and everything fair, but me first. You know?
Yeah.
I want my share first, you know? And we have this in our element, and it's nothing wrong with our humanity that has brought this on. It was part of our survival mechanism, you know? You're out there and you're looking after your family or yourself, and you make sure you get the first food and you get the worst water. It's a natural surviving instinct. Yeah. But it doesn't work in our society anymore, because that's what our corruption and our greed is. It's me first. Let me look after myself first, and then I'll take care of everyone else out there. And so what's amazing about blockchain technology is that it enables us to take that away from our own self. It stops us putting our hand in and saying, "Well, me first." You know, it keeps everyone fair and open and transparent.
But that's good in a way where everybody has that where you know that all of the parts of the deal have to be fulfilled for everybody to get paid out on it. Like I say, as opposed to, it is part of capitalism, but it's a new form of capitalism where the traditional way of fiat currency, I think it does breed greed. You know, humans, it is intrinsically in our DNA to be greedy. I don't care if you live in the most capitalist country in the world or the most communistic one, you always want more than your neighbour. You know, maybe I'm wrong, I don't know, but
well,
like if you put it down, if we're an anthropologist, we went and studied it like in a Big Brother way, whether it is like one extra bit of bread or one extra yacht, it's in your DNA to kind of strive for something better.
I think communism fell more on everyone's greed than, you know, the principles outlined by, you know, Karl Marx. The idea as a beginning was beautiful. You know, in practice it just didn't work.
That's the thing. Once you put humans into the mix, with a lot of the any ideology will work until you add a human. You know, because then that ideology is not taking into account human psychology of greed, wants, needs, of shelter. Look, you can take care of the basic needs of people's shelter, but what then? They lead a grey life where if you can't strive for something, then what is the point in existing? You're just going to literally sit there, watch Jeremy Kyle all day eating crisps. I mean, what happens after that? Nothing. You need something to trigger your brain, otherwise you get depressed or whatever.
Get done. Yeah, definitely.
All right. So where do you see the future of this then? Like, it's hard to look. It's never going to replace gold because they're two completely separate markets. So I think people should see them separately, as opposed to saying this is the future.
There are now coming to the market quite a few what I'm going to call stable coins that are backed physically by gold. And if you're looking for something that is a digital gold, there is definitely some projects that offer that opportunity, where your gold sits in a bank, it's audited, it's centralized, but you own a digital representation of that, which is excellent because you can transact then in fractions of your gold. You're not stuck that I bought a kilo of gold and now I can't utilize that without selling out my whole position. As you said, I can't go away shaving around these little bits of gold, but with these new stable coins that are entering the market, you can. You can own a kilo and I can come and pay for a beer with 1 gram of my gold, you know, and I can be paid again by somebody else in gold. So one of the projects that I'm following is Kinesis Money. I think they've got a really interesting offering that they brought to the table, which is exactly that. They've got, you know, gold and silver audited, backed in vaults, and they're issuing coins based upon that.
So really it takes the best of both worlds essentially, where it is physical gold, which is your world, and the brave new world, shall we call it, of stable coins, cryptocurrencies, so on and so forth. So how would that benefit me then, like as someone to use this? Is it just some way where I could actually, because if I got a kilo of gold, I go to Edward, what buyers have you got for me? It's a very old way of doing it, but with this, is it like the modern way of doing it?
I'd say definitely it's the modern way of doing that. So you can have your position in gold. So the kind of old investor would come and buy his kilo of gold, it would sit in a vault, and he would pay storage charges. The modern day millennium investor will come and he will buy his kilo of gold that's digitally represented, so he knows he owns claim to that physical underlying gold at a 1-to-1. There's no unallocated part to this, but he can transact with that. So he can give, oh, it's your birthday, I can give you a gram of gold. Oh, I can go and buy things with my gold. I can send that gold across the world and back again. You can use that in everyday life, where the typical gold investor just sits on his position and holds and kind of waits. If you think about it in a part of counterparty risk, I mean, a lot of us will start to worry, especially here in Cyprus. We know the banks, we're insured up to 100,000 euros. So anytime you have money over 100,000 euros, you have a counterparty risk. If the banks go under, you've lost that money. And who's insuring that money? The Cyprus government, which again is a counterparty risk. If you were to have a stable coin where you've got physical gold as a backing, it doesn't matter if you had 500 million sitting there. The gold is allocated directly to that. So if everything fails, you just go and collect your gold and walk away. You have no counterparty to then face.
So does this also bring more liquidity into your market, like the bullion market, because it brings in smaller people, or is there like a minimum allocation that I've got to give to you to become part of this?
No, I think with these products, the whole point of these products, so Kinesis, I've seen they've got a project, they're going out in Indonesia with the post office, and they're going to go and address a lot of the unbanked population that had no banking facilities, and banks weren't interested to offer them those facilities because they're such small of a clients. But using digital technology, all they need is a phone. The software doesn't cost them anything, and they can transact. And it doesn't matter how many those transactions are, because there's millions of them going on. So there's a value there, and there's definitely a value for those people who couldn't, they had no means of storing, and they had no financial services even offered to them.
It's quite a good way of ensuring, like I say, the unbanked of these countries, which a vast percentage of people are, where they can, as long as the post office don't go down, I guess, then they're kind of a bit better because it's gold backed anyway, so it's cool. All right, well look, we'll have to leave it there because I'm looking at forks of lightning over your shoulder, and I don't want it to hit the camera and me to die because I'm connected to it. All right, mate, so we'll leave it there. Thanks for coming, Edward.
More than welcome. Great talking to you.
Thanks, everyone. See you later. Bye.